I'm Juliet Stevenson, and I'm a very proud patron of Breaking Barriers. So, sort of at the height of the so-called refugee crisis, of course, it's still a huge crisis, but 2016, 2017, when people first became very aware of the global situation, and Calais was building up and up and up with large numbers of refugees in the camps there. I got very involved and taken some time off work and had got several projects running to support that camp and so on. And Matt Powell just reached out to me. I can't remember who connected us, but I got a call from him saying, could I talk with him? He had this idea. So I met with him, and his idea just seemed to make complete sense to me. That, there was a huge need for people arriving here once they have their right to remain, once they have their papers, to find work. And then there are many areas of the employment market where people are really needed. So putting the two things together just made such sort of practical sense, and also moral and emotional sense. I think the practicality of it, and it's really sort of hitting a psychological nail on the head in terms of identifying work as perhaps the principal way in which people trying to rebuild lives, shattered lives, can really do so with dignity and respect. And there's nothing like work, I don't think, probably to give you a sense of place, of purpose, of belonging. But I think the point is that breaking barriers talks about meaningful employment, and it talks about matching people's talents and skills and perhaps experience to the right job. It's not just any job. It's really trying to give jobs and find work for people which is commensurate with who they are, what they need, what their skills are, what they can bring, And I mean, the qualities that can be brought by people who've endured what many of these refugees have endured and have so much to offer as a result. I've talked to quite a lot of HR people in companies and so on who have employed Breaking Barriers clients, and they say almost to a person, they say, they make the best employees. They're committed, hardworking, very rarely take sick leave, have a level of commitment to the work, which is born from their experience and their desire to be there and to be good employees and to make a success of their lives. And yeah, it's a sort of potentially a win-win situation all round, although the journey to that is very difficult and very challenging for everybody. I completely appreciate that, but the fact that it has grown so successfully is a measure of just how it does work, for employers as well. To me, meaningful employment means a huge part of my identity, I think. If I wasn't able to work in ways that felt purposeful to me, I really wouldn't quite know who I was. I mean, apart from being a parent, which is huge, and a partner, it's a very substantial part of my sense of who I am. And so the same is true for most people, I think. To have a sense that the work you do matches who you are, insofar as that's possible. It's not just work to pay the bills and the rent, although that has to happen, but to find work that is meaningful is to feel that you are contributing, that you are in some way well aligned to your place of work and the nature of it, to be part of a community and to be part of a team, whatever the nature of it. To arrive in a country and try and find your way into it as an outsider is hugely, I think, helped by finding meaningful employment, and that is the feedback from so many people once they've overcome the huge challenges of learning a language, learning a way of life, learning the culture. If those huge hurdles are achievable, then I think it can offer refugees an incredible doorway into a new life and a new community. Many refugees arriving here have had terrible experiences of detention, torture, persecution of various forms. that we know does a huge amount to batter your sense of self and crush it and demean it. There's a lot that needs, to be repaired in you, and some of it won't ever be fully reparable. But and then the challenge of being in a new world, a new society, a new country, new language, and everything that goes along with that, the loneliness of exile. So I think that meaningful work is a huge sort of one of the best ways in which you can support refugees into some pathway towards a kind of repair, and perhaps a new sense of self, a newly formed sense of self that doesn't replace the old one, but can restore self-respect and identity and a sense of purpose. I first encountered the refugee community in the UK through Helen Bamber, who started the Medical Foundation for the care of victims of torture. And I'd asked to see her because I was playing a character in a play at the Royal Court called Death and the Maiden, of a woman who'd been tortured every day in Chile under Pinochet's regime. And I just had no idea how to portray that experience. So she extremely kindly introduced me to the Chilean refugee community, some of them here in London, who were extraordinarily generous in sharing their experiences with me and helping me to understand what, insofar as it was possible to communicate that, what that experience was and the legacy it left them. And that whole encounter really so inspired me about what these people had survived and how they'd survived with such humanity and strength and warmth. And I was sort of really bowled over and felt when that job finished that I did not want to end my relationship with it. People that I have met throughout all these years in the refugee community from many, many different parts of the world, so many of them have inspired me with their capacity to survive, and not just survive, but to survive with their humanity intact, in ways I just can't imagine myself surviving. And what they've had to endure and is sort of unimaginable a lot of the time. And I find my encounter with many of these people is just so sort of strengthening and life enhancing, and it helps me to put a completely different frame around my own life. I have had so many friendships have come out of it and amazing encounters. I get much more out of it than I'm sure I put in, and I'm not sort of saying that to sound trite or something. It is genuinely true. Many, many inspiring people, and just watching human beings commit themselves to overcoming what life has delivered them with, through all kinds of difficulty. I'm not for a minute, romanticizing this. It's very often very dark and very difficult, but I can't imagine achieving what they've achieved. And to be amongst people like that is really life enhancing, The highlight of working with Breaking Barriers in the 10 years since it was founded is to see it grow. I mean, this tiny little seedling. When Matt Powell, the founder, first contacted me, he was literally operating from his mum and dad's kitchen. There was not even an office. So I have been so proud to be a supporter. It's just fantastic to see something working and taking off, and the compassion and the energy and the support and the understanding and the respect it offers people who come to this country. Once that door into employment is open, hold on to a sense of your own value. You won't always necessarily have that sense of value confirmed in you or affirmed in you by other people. Perhaps not every day or not at all times, but try and hold onto a sense of your own value in yourself, because you bring huge value to this country and we value you. And if you don't get that message every day, just hold it somewhere in your heart or in your pocket, because we do value you and we hugely admire and respect everything that it's done to get you here and that you bring to us. So if you're not hearing that regularly, remember that is the message from so many of us who welcome you here. I think supporting refugees does enable people to have a real sense of purpose. We can all, if we just use a small amount of imagination, try and think what it would be like to lose our homes, to lose members of our family, perhaps our children, our language, everything that makes us who we are, everything that's familiar and known and loved or not loved, but which is our world, to try to start again in a new place with a new language and not knowing anybody and perhaps heartbroken about leaving your kids or family members behind. We can all imagine that situation. And so anybody can walk into this community and help. It just takes a small amount of imagination. I think that personally speaking, what I have got out of it has been much more than anything I've put into it, just in terms of feeling more connected to society at large and not just to my own little corner of it. A sense that of opening up a conversation with people whose lives have been far more challenging than mine, a sense of purpose. And also you meet extraordinary, brilliant people, you know, both working in the community and arriving in it as clients, you know, incredible people. So there's every reason to support Breaking Barriers and to come along and be part of the community here.